I'll make this brief because we have a resolution later on the agenda tonight. But this is regarding the elected officials' lifetime benefits. And this was a suggestion that I believe was made by the task force that presented last month. And as many village residents may know or may not know, elected officials such as myself and the Board of Trustees, after hitting a 5-year mark at a certain age, get village-funded benefits for the rest of our lives. And this is actually something I was hoping to have gotten done earlier, but I'm happy to do this tonight. I've asked for a resolution to be placed on the agenda, and this would start with this group. This would essentially eliminate the benefits for life for elected officials. I would argue that we are public servants and our job is to volunteer our time. And while we're here, it's okay, but when we retire from our jobs, taking benefits from the village really doesn't make much sense. I believe the village of West Hampton did something similar and was applauded for it. So I'm asking the board tonight to essentially remove that. As far as it goes with people that have already received this, I believe the task force recommended that they are grandfathered in. This is something that they expected and are now used to, and taking this away from people that have already earned it would not be a good idea. But for us to set the example moving forward would be. This could save potentially the village taxpayers significant funding, with the cost of family plan being upwards of $40,000 per family over the course of a extended period of time. Even at any discount rate, these could result in substantial costs for the village. And again, we are public servants and we are essentially volunteers. So this is something that would be a good practice to do, and we could set a good example moving forward. I'm not sure if there's any comments or questions from the board, but it's a discussed item, so feel free to discuss.
Sure. I think this requires further analysis. I don't remember I believe it was Walter Dean only spoke about the terms. I don't think they touched upon that. And also, the Planning Commission is still working on this as a package to consider compensation, benefits, and term limits. And the Budget and Finance Committee is also working on the same thing as far as budget is concerned. So I'd like to wait for their presentations, and this should be done. I don't know why you put this on without discussing it with anyone, and I don't recall that being presented either. And without further analysis, I think this should be tabled.
Is there any other comments from board members?
I'd agree with Trustee Arresta. Mr. Mayor, when Mr. Dean made his presentation, you were insistent that the recommendations he was making be open to a public hearing. Suddenly, this evening, you put this resolution. There's been no discussion. There's been no data presented to this board in terms of what other villages and municipalities in our area are doing. I do believe that while the resolution has merit, it needs to be considered as a whole with term limits and with the overall compensation of board members. And it certainly requires further study than putting a resolution on the agenda for this evening and expecting to have it voted on without further discussion.
Are there any other comments from board members?
Yes, thank
Charlene,
you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
I
Trustee
would
Brown.
agree with Trustee Arresta and Trustee Stevenson, and I would also like to add, if we can also put together a report in comparison to what's going on in the other municipalities, this way we can fully analyze things, because we don't, in my opinion, have enough information. So that would be an additional request.
Any other comments from board members?
I was just going to ask Charlene if it would be possible to do a comparison. So just to repeat what Trustee Brown said.
Yes,
because I think that's the
agree,
responsible way to do this, not to just stick something on the agenda without any, seems very political to me, but.
Any other comments from board members?
I think it's all been said. Nothing
Okay.
further to add.
All right, what I would say is a few things. First off, as we know, discussion must be done in public. So a work session, which we're having tonight, and having this as a discussion item is exactly the time to discuss this. Now, I will say that this resolution is very clear. What this does is that village elected officials who are to volunteer and to serve the community, which we love, for whatever reason, I think to some resolution that was passed maybe the 1990s, get healthcare benefits for the rest of our lives if we hit the 5-year mark. And that is not something that we should be taking from the village. It is very simple. All we need to do tonight is to pass a resolution, and that would eliminate us as volunteers taking from the village and taking healthcare benefits from the village. This actually came up during the CSEA negotiations when the union actually called us out because we had asked them to come and paying a little bit on their health insurance, and they said to us, "Well, it doesn't really seem fair that you, as the elected officials, when you are retired and no longer working for the village, get these benefits for life." So I think this is a very easy thing for us to do tonight. We have an opportunity to discuss this further, but there is no reason why any elected official, and we are long gone and no longer contributing to the village, should be taking anything from the village, let alone a $40,000 per year healthcare package for the rest of our lives.
That's not how it works, Jesse.
And you have a point.
Well, you're not getting the right information out there, Jesse.
When you hit a
That's
certain
not
age,
when you. It's a Medicare supplement. So say it the way it is. And if somebody leaves the village at 35 years old, it doesn't kick in until their retirement if they put their. So you're not getting the facts out. This is why this needs further study. You're saying things that aren't correct, just like this was not part of Walter Dean's presentation. This is a slapstick thing you put for your own political reasons. You put this on the agenda tonight. Okay, without discussion. Yes, this warrants public discussion, but the study has to be made. And you're not saying correct things in your little speech here. So that's all I have to say about it. You're doing it, it should be done as a package. You stuck this on 7 weeks before an election to put everybody else on I don't know what you're trying to do here with this at this time without discussion.
a few
And
quick
we
points.
do discuss things privately, okay, as between board members. And this is not something, this is all of a sudden we see the agenda and this is on here. There's a lot more to this. We have 2 different committees working on this because it should be a package. And doing things the right way instead of paying an attorney to do things four times because you don't do it right to begin with.
Thank you for that. And you do make a good point that after a certain point, the cost of the family plan goes from $40,000 to a Medicare supplemental, which still has a significant cost to the village. So while not every year will cost $40,000, some years will cost
and
less,
there's other things in between
but still cost
that.
something.
There's other things in between that as well. So you're leaving a lot out.
But the point is very basic here that that this is a significant cost to the village for elected officials who are volunteers
Okay,
who
we
are
got
leaving
it.
the
You
village.
said that 3 times already. We all get it.
And also, what I would point out is that Trustee Stevenson makes a good point. The chair of the task force did suggest that the terms go from 2 years to 4 years for trustees. And I said 2 points. One point is that there's a good argument for that. 4 years would be good government. It allows the elected officials for more time to complete jobs and see things through. On the other hand, we want to give that option to the voters and the residents who might not want their elected officials to have 4 years. They might want a little more emphasis over that and have a little more control over the people who we are serving. So there's 2 sides to that coin. There's 2 valid arguments for that. But I don't think that us not getting 4-year terms, or the trustees not getting 4-year terms, or term limits for that matter, should be linked to the healthcare benefits that we get for life. This is an easy thing to do. Perhaps one could argue that you can trade a 4-year term for term limits. Maybe that's an argument. I would argue against that. I would say we also should have term limits. But I think that this is a very easy resolution to pass tonight. I also think we should have term limits. I think term limits are a good practice. This way, one person doesn't remain a mayor or trustee for more than a period of time. Other elected offices have term limits. Others do not, like United States Congress, for example, and people have spoken about term limits there too. But to not do this tonight makes little to no sense for me. I think this would be an extremely popular resolution to adopt. I think it shows the village residents that we are working for them and not for us. And I hope to serve the residents. And when I leave here, I do not want to take one dime from from the village. We give a lot of our energy and our efforts and our love to the village. And this is just a very easy resolution to get done tonight. And I would hope that our Board of Trustees chooses to adopt it.
Again,
And
Mr. Mayor, I feel like you have not given this board ample opportunity. We have to see what other villages do. I think we need to take the overall context of this. And while the elimination of the lifetime health benefits may actually be a goal, and I tend to agree with you that it is extends for too long, but it is an overall package of compensation. And I have to disagree with you that being a board member or the mayor is a volunteer position. We want people to want to take these jobs because they feel they're in some way compensated for doing it. You want not just to have people coming into this board who can only afford to do it if they happen to have other assets or they're willing to provide their time for free. Right now, if you take away that benefit and you don't look at the overall compensation of the board members, perhaps you are limiting the pool of applicants who would want to fill this position, and you're eliminating the possibility that some people who might want to serve would not serve. So all of these questions need to be considered, and to have it all just piled together into one meeting and expect to have a vote on the resolution immediately is a disservice. We need to study this and talk about it and consider the entire package. There are many factors involved.
I would argue that there is really nothing to study here. I mean, this is a very simple
You know,
concept.
Jesse, there's two different committees making a study of this, but the overall package, this is slapstick what you're doing here, to put everybody on the spot. Can we move on, please?
I've spoken to this board at length about this.
You haven't spoken to me in a month.
And I've also spoken to this board before everyone was elected, and I said, if you're elected, this is something that we should do because
That's not what you said to me either, Jesse, so. Okay, can we just move on from here because I think we've beaten this to death.
All right.
Don't appreciate you putting things on without, you don't communicate with anybody, Jesse. And you do things like that. It's not appreciated.
I will make one final comment
Of
on this, but I will say that this is our opportunity to discuss
Okay.
things with the public.
Yeah, I
at a
know, but
work
we're not
session.
ready. We have two different committees working on this on an overall package, which makes sense, and that's the responsible thing to do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments, and I appreciate the board's comments. We'll continue to move on here.
I'd like to say one thing, please. It doesn't have to be rushed. This is an open discussion. We've made valid reasons as to wanting to have more information, comparisons, and to view them. It's a good request. It's a fair request. It's a transparent request. And I think you're making people feel a bit pressured, and that's not the way to conduct something. And what you're saying a lot is your opinion, and you're entitled to your opinion. And I think you have to let everyone else express their opinion. And I think that we should just close this for now, and thank you for your opinion.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. Appreciate that. So with that said, I will turn this back over to Charlene.